So, this week on Ethics in Journalism, I'm going to speak a little bit about bias. And I don't believe that there is anything that is ever not bias, because no matter how much we say things aren't bias, depending on who's doing the reporting or who's doing the studies, their point of view is always going to come across. So, it is extremely important to be as fair as possible. So, this week on Ethics in Journalism, we're going to discuss journalism rooted in fairness. And we know that in an era which we are living in right now, where divisive rhetoric often dominates the public discourse or the airwaves or whatever blogs you are reading, whatever videos you are watching, there's a lot of content that is dividing people. So the call for fairness and basically what we call being impartial or impartiality in journalism has never been more urgent for me. Bias, and this is what I keep saying, whether it's intentional or unconscious, because we all have biases, it can distort the truth, and it can definitely undermine trust. So as Christians, content creators, as Christian journalists, we are challenged to rise above favoritism and represent the fullness of every story that we are a part of. One of my favorite books in the Bible, James, I love quoting from James. James 2 verse 1 says this: "My brothers and sisters, believers in our glorious Lord Jesus Christ must not show any favoritism." And I don't think you can put it any more bluntly than that. Bias not only affects how stories are told, but it also determines which stories are told. And by avoiding favoritism and then also putting our feelings aside and prioritizing fairness, we can, as journalists and content creators, we can ensure that the work serves as a beacon of truth, equality, and justice in the fairest and most true sense of the forms of equality and justice. So it's important to understand the bias in journalism. Bias manifests itself in various ways, whether through selective coverage of only reporting on certain things and then highlighting certain things and dismissing others, which then leads to misrepresentation, or what we like to call in journalism an editorial slant, because the editor will put their own spin on something. While complete objectivity may be impossible, like I said, it's impossible really not to be biased. Let's not kid ourselves. We need to strive for that balanced reporting, which ensures diverse perspectives are considered and respected, regardless of whether we are, as Christians, looking at someone who might be of a different faith or say something we don't agree with or not be biblically correct. We still need to be respectful and represent them in whatever diverse perspectives they are coming from. And we can, in South Africa, we can hearken back to a good example of media bias during the apartheid era in South Africa, where the press was heavily influenced by the government. And I think we could even say post-apartheid, with state capture and everything, our press is still heavily influenced by the government and favoring narratives that upheld the regime's ideologies of that time and also the regime's ideologies of this time, while it also silences dissenting voices. This kind of selective reporting perpetuates inequality and oppression even in the new South Africa. And this illustrates how bias can have devastating consequences. Conversely, fair journalism seeks to level the playing field, amplifying the marginalized voices and offering a comprehensive understanding of complex issues to make it understandable and relatable. Such reporting upholds the biblical principle of treating everyone, all people, with dignity, regardless of their status or their background. Very, very important. Now, there are obviously risks of favoritism in reporting, and we see this all the time. Favoritism in journalism can distort reality, perpetuate stereotypes, and fuel polarization. And this is what most medias are wanting to do. And even if I can go as far as to say in the digital marketing sphere, when it comes to social media and the algorithms that are in social media, they want to polarize people and set off one group of people against another, because those kinds of conflicts online are what create these viral moments or these trends that tend to draw everyone in and get people's opinions, especially if they're disagreeing with each other. Similarly, overemphasizing the negative aspects of a community while ignoring the strengths perpetuates this kind of harmful bias, which the media likes to do. In Proverbs 18:17, it reminds us of the importance of hearing all sides. And this is what Proverbs 18:17 says. In a lawsuit, the first to speak always seems right, until someone comes forward and cross-examines. I mean, that is the Bible saying that. I mean, that is insane, guys. Come on now. This verse challenges journalists to dig deeper, to verify claims, and present balanced accounts to their audiences. Fair reporting fosters trust and equips the reader to make an informed decision, which has to be the bottom line. And as I always like to do, add applications into everything that I do to give you guys something to work towards. Let's look at some practical steps that we can check off to help us avoid bias in general, whether it be conscious or subconscious. We need to diversify our sources, which is number one. Include perspectives from different genders, ethnicities, socioeconomic backgrounds, and belief systems. Diversity strengthens credibility and it broadens understanding. Number two, challenge assumptions. Always regularly question your own beliefs and preconceptions. Bias often stems from an unexamined assumption. Something that we have not examined deeply enough or gone into can be a bias, and we then can be very presumptuous depending on that bias. Number three, provide context. For me, context is the key. Avoid presenting facts in isolation, like the media loves to do. Little snippets here and there out of an entire speech, whereas if you heard that same snippet within the context of the entire speech, it would mean something completely different. Context prevents misinterpretation and ensures that the stories reflect the bigger picture, not some micro picture that we are hyper-focusing on in order to get our viewpoint across, which is often biased. Number four, acknowledge the bias. I mean, being transparent. Transparency builds trust. If a potential bias exists, disclose it instead of hiding it. Be upfront about it rather than concealing it, and make it part of the story and give the other angle. Number five, strive for balance. Ensure that multiple sides of a story are always represented, especially in contentious issues or issues that can be highly debatable or maybe cause people to react emotionally towards it. Make sure that we are balanced and represent all sides of the story. So let's look at an example of balanced reporting, and I like to look at South African journalists. And there is a journalist, Friel Haffajee, very famous. You can go check them out in their LinkedIn profile. And Friel Haffajee offers a masterclass in unbiased journalism. She is known for her integrity, and reporting often includes multiple perspectives, presenting a very nuanced view of complex societal issues. Her commitment to fairness and accuracy has earned her widespread respect in the media today in South Africa. Let's be inspiring with our reporting and inspire action through a bias-free approach. Whether you're a journalist, a reader, or a consumer of media, avoiding bias requires intentionality. We need to be intentional. For journalists, we need to commit to self-reflection and accountability, ensuring that our work reflects fairness. For readers, seek out diverse news sources and challenge single-sided narratives. Don't keep quiet. Speak up. Let your voice be heard. And for our communities in general, advocate for media literacy, equipping others to identify and challenge bias reporting. So as I opened up with James 2 verse 1, which says, "My brothers and sisters, believers in our glorious Lord Jesus Christ, we must not show favoritism." With that in mind, let us remember that fairness is not just about a professional ethic. It is a spiritual calling. By striving for impartiality in our work, we glorify God and build bridges of understanding in a deeply divided world.